And we're good. Welcome to our newest conversation on the Roll Toddy Draft Blog. I'm Baker Lehman here with Herbie May, as always. Herbie, how you doing today?
What's up, brother? Good to see you. Tough loss a couple weeks ago, huh?
That it was. It's been had a little time to heal, though. And we are about halfway through the college football season. And we're going to break down who is in our college football playoff and some prospects we've been keeping our eye on for various reasons. So let's dive right in. Herbie, who is your top four? And we're going to do the top four a little differently, not based on who's in just if the season ends today, but we've looked ahead at some of these teams' schedules, who they play, who they have yet to play, and who at the end of the season after championship weekend is going to be in the college football playoff in your eyes.
We were talking about this before we even started the video. It's just tough to even pick this right now. I've got Florida State in there. I don't think anyone's going to beat Florida State. I've got Ole Miss in there. I think that comes down to the Egg Bowl at the end of the season. And I've got Notre Dame and I've got Mississippi State. Obviously, two of those teams, Ole Miss and Mississippi State, comes down to that last game. Notre Dame, I just love what I saw in that game against Florida State, and I thought they were the rightful winner. I don't think Florida State deserved to win off that call, like you said. I mean, that tough call to make, tough call not to make, actually, like you said earlier. I've got those four teams in there. Florida State, I just don't see losing. They're just that good of a team. The ACC is that much of a joke this year. And Ole Miss, tough ride out. Same with Mississippi State. I think Mississippi State's biggest challenge is definitely everyone's waiting to see that Alabama game. But those four teams who have gotten in the playoff.
Yeah, well, it's hard to disagree with a lot of those picks the way all those teams have been playing. I have Mississippi State in. I think even if they lose to Alabama, that they can end up beating Ole Miss, even though it's in the Grove and the Egg Bowl's in Oxford, which is going to be really tough. But the thing about Mississippi State that I like compared to Ole Miss is their offensive balance. Ole Miss definitely has a more talented team, and there's no doubt about that. But Dan Mullen has been in more of these big game championship scenarios from his days back at Florida. He has I would say that more balance on offense. Dak Prescott can obviously do it all. He can run, he can throw, and he's really evolved as a quarterback this season. But they can control the clock and control the pace of the game with their running backs and Dak's leg. Plus, they have a group of very talented, not really even very, but shockingly talented receivers that a lot of people have never heard of and can really air it out. And then defensively, once again, Ole Miss is more talented defensively than Mississippi State. But Mississippi State, I think, has just played some lights-out defense. And like I said, I just think that offense can control the clock in a way that Ole Miss can't. And I think that might end up biting Ole Miss at the end of the year. So I have this one's a weird pick for me, is Oregon. It is no secret to anyone that I am not a big Oregon fan. They're generally pretty soft when it really comes down to it. But they're getting healthier. You're noticing that Stanford is not as good a team as a lot of people thought they were. And just when it really comes down to it, a lot of teams in the Pac-12, outside maybe Arizona State, aren't nearly as good as we thought they were. UCLA isn't that good. Stanford, as I just mentioned, isn't that good. Arizona State's playing a lot better, but still not great defensively overall. They held, a Stanford team that we expect to be very good down to, just under about 10 points. But I think overall, when it really comes down to it, it's going to be Oregon sneaking in. I think Florida State gets in because I think that they can win out. But if Florida State loses any one of these games, they're not in. They will fall short even being the defending national title winners. And they just don't play any very good teams down the line. There are a lot of trap games, but no one who I'm really like, oh, Florida State can't win that game, even with how disappointing they've been. But they really have to fight complacency and fight themselves more than they have to play good teams. And then last but not least, I got my Crimson Tide getting in. I simply think that at the end of the day, I know. I think Alabama can win out. They go to Tennessee this weekend and should feast on that inexperienced Tennessee offensive line. They have a bye week. Then they go to Baton Rouge. And this is really almost, I think, potentially the hardest game of the year, is that game in Baton Rouge where Bama has not played very well on the road. Oxford obviously was a beast in itself that weekend. Arkansas was a raucous crowd, but Death Valley is a whole different animal. And you've seen some of the communication errors that Blake Sims has had away from home. And, that raucous crowd, I've been in that Tiger Stadium on Saturday night. I know how loud it gets there and just how ferocious that team can be on Saturday. But Alabama has a very good record there at night. Nick Saban knows how to coach there. Lane Kiffin's going to, I think, stick to more of a basic game plan rather than trying to do too much like he did against Ole Miss. So I think Bama can win that game. And then, as you've seen this past weekend, when Bama comes home, they're a completely different animal. Bryant-Denny was going nuts this past Saturday, and they blew out Texas A&M 59-0. As you just said, Herb, before we started the video, they hurt Texas A&M. They absolutely punished them for even thinking they could get a first down in Tuscaloosa. So I think that Mississippi State, for as much of their praise as I just sang, I don't think that they can beat Bama at home. Western Carolina obviously isn't a threat to beat Alabama, just like Presbyterian isn't a threat to beat Ole Miss. And then Saban's record in revenge games, especially at home, is sensational. So when Auburn comes into town for the Iron Bowl, it's going to be just as big an Iron Bowl as last year, but it's going to be in Tuscaloosa. And once again, I don't think Auburn's as good as people think they are. And they're just like what you saw when they played Mississippi State. They remind me of a little bit better version of last year's Texas A&M team. High-paced, super talented, fast offense, but that defense is not nearly as good as we thought it was. And they've lost a lot on defense, not only to the draft, but to injury. And so when I think it comes down to it, Bama can sneak into the SEC title game, even if they play Georgia. I think they can beat a Georgia and sneak in the college football playoff. I think that Alabama can do it. The coaching staff has been there for the big title runs. A lot of the players have been there. Blake Sims has been there, even though this is his first year playing. I think Bama can sneak in.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the rant of a Bama fan. Playoff. No, you make a lot of good points, but a lot of my buddies are leaving for Death Valley tonight and tomorrow morning, and I'm not going. But God, we were there. You were there, and it is a whole different animal. Those fans are crazy. I hope we can crawl out of there. That's a tough game for us. Who do you have winning the Egg Bowl? So clearly, since you don't have Ole Miss and you've got us losing somewhere, who do you have us losing to?
I think Auburn can beat Ole Miss, and I think that Mississippi State can beat Ole Miss. Like I said, the thing about Auburn, the only difference really with them, as I mentioned, I made that Texas A&M comparison. I think with Auburn, the difference is since they're a rushing attack rather than an air raid passing attack, they can still control the clock. They play too fast to really control the clock, and that's the flaw in the Gus Malzahn system. But I think that they can play well enough to beat Ole Miss. And then they're going to, I think, like I said, even though Ole Miss is going out for revenge in both those games against Mississippi State and against Ole Miss, I just think the two teams' ability to keep it on the ground and really run the ball effectively just trumps Ole Miss's ability to score and play great defense, but they can't run the ball. And I think at the end of the day, as much as college football is towards a passing attack, I think that's going to be a flaw in Ole Miss's game plan somewhere down the road.
That lack of a running game just hurts us beyond all belief. But when you look, it's funny when you look at Dak and you look at Bo, they're really not too far off numbers-wise. It's crazy. You would never even realize it. I didn't realize it at all, but I was putting them side by side, and they're not off. I mean, Dak's obviously better, but they're not off by far. But that lack of a running game just doesn't give us the ability to control the clock. So you're right there. We lack there, but God, it's so frustrating. Why couldn't we get Bo Scarborough? God, gosh. But anyway, no, I think you're right. I think we're not far off in our picks. God, I just can't.
I like what you mentioned about Notre Dame sneaking in. Even with that loss to FSU, Notre Dame looked much better than people expected them to. You made that point before it really started. But I think also they have to make two big West Coast trips out to Arizona State and out to USC, and I think that could really wear on them. USC, because USC has had this run of dominance over Notre Dame, and in the last 3 years it's ended. I think this USC team, which is playing pretty well right now, despite their lack of depth, can really get up for that game at the end of the season. Just like I think Arizona State is playing much better football than people expected, I think that they can get up for the Notre Dame game too. After Notre Dame's going to kind of be sleepwalking through a Navy game the week before. So
I can't wait, dude. I'm so excited.
I mean, we've talked about this. We've seen it 1,000 times that November is a huge month for college football. No matter who's set up to play who, no matter what the rankings are, a lot of crazy things can happen in November, and that's what makes this playoff so exciting.
Gosh, I'm excited. Howdy toddy.
Well, roll tide. I can't disagree with a lot of our picks here, but that's going to be it for our first segment. We're going to come back for another segment to talk about some of the prospects who've impressed us, disappointed us, and then really a guy who's really shocked us here. But thanks for watching the Roll Tide Draft Blog. We'll see you in a little bit. All right, so now we'll do prospects. So impressed and disappointed and all that jazz.
Okay. Let me pull up Trevor Knight's numbers really quick. Oh, Trevor Knight, why do you suck so much?
Because he just beat Alabama, so obviously he's the best quarterback in the country. My friends and I were talking about that last night, just like, is Trevor Knight really that good, or did he just have an amazing Sugar Bowl against a very nonchalant Alabama team?
That's exactly what it was, and the only reason I'm going to talk about this right now is because I bought into that.
Yeah, that was hard not to.
All right, let's ride.
1 second. Okay. Yes, let's go. Oh wait, hold on. Now I need to bring something back up. You don't need that game anymore. That's Beasley, 8 sacks. Okay, now we're good. All right. So prospects start with impressed, go to disappointed, on the rise.
Okay.
Welcome back to our conversation about the. Well, no, that was shitty.
Nice.
Welcome back to our conversation here on the Roll Tide Draft Blog about the mid-season college football review. And now that we've talked about the college football playoff, we're going to break into some prospects who've been catching our eyes for various reasons. Here with Herbie May, as always, I'm Baker Lehman. So Herbie, who is the prospect who has really impressed you, maybe because of his high expectations that came in and he's meeting those high expectations, or a guy who you weren't really sure about and has blown some expectations out of the water?
This blog is just going to make me lose friends. I picked Bama in the last one, and obviously it was upended. So hopefully, I'm going to make this pick, and he's going to start sucking, and then Ole Miss will win. But I've got Dak Prescott. There's no way around it. The guy's unbelievable. You see him play last year, and he's a solid quarterback last year, but I don't think anybody saw this kind of fire from him this year. The way he kind of controls the game with his legs and his arm. You see him make precise throws. Just a big bodied guy, just really athletic. I love the way he controlled the offense. I love the way he composed himself against Auburn when they had a little adversity. Got just a really, really good player. Top of the Heisman watch right now. I like what I see from him, and I'm really, really, really not excited to play him in the Egg Bowl.
Prescott certainly had a really impressive year. I mean, it's hard to look at that. I mean, Mississippi State's #1 in the country right now for a reason, and for the first time in school history, and he runs that Dan Mullen spread offense, to a T, and he has perfect skill set for it. For me, though, I'm going to go with Vic Beasley from Clemson, who really proved me wrong. He has 8 sacks on the year after having 13 last year. And I said at the beginning of the year, if you look back at our top 15 prospects coming into the season, I had Vic Beasley outside my top 10, and I said because I need to see more from him. Because last year you kind of saw he disappeared in that FSU blowout game and really just was a speed rusher. He just could beat people around the edge, and this year people are game playing for him. They've lost a couple guys in that D-line. He's really the only threat. Well, he has shut me out and changed my opinion about him pretty quickly. He, despite Clemson, just kind of being Clemson, losing some big games they probably shouldn't have lost, he has been sensational. As I mentioned, the 8 sacks, he's improved his hand. He's still not very strong at the point of attack and needs to improve on that, but he's shown that he's developed an array of pass rush moves. He's very good at using his hands to get around blockers now. And as we've mentioned, that explosive speed that allows him to get around the edge and get him an edge to get to the quarterback, and he's done it very successfully. He's got a bunch of he really doesn't. The thing that is both good and bad, I guess you could say, about him is he doesn't have a lot of tackles that aren't sacks or tackles for a loss. So he's living in the opponent's backfield, but that means he's not either opponents are running away from him constantly or he's getting blocked up on run play. So I want to see a little more strength added onto him. He's definitely a tweener at the next level, a guy who can play stand-up or put his hand in the dirt, but you'd probably like to see him in more of a 3-4 outside linebacker look.
Yeah, dude, you were a hater on Vic Beasley from the start, and he's been one of my top guys early on. I just love this kid. I love his size. I love his speed. But, you're right. He is a tweener, and it scares me to put more weight on him in the next level because I would hate to slow him down. But, he's I love his size right now in college, but I don't know if I love it in the pros. But right now, guy, you're right. There's 8 sacks. I mean, he lives in the backfield.
Yes,
He reminds me of just like a shiftier Julius Peppers. Like it just kind of like looks that way to me. And God, he's just an unbelievable player. I've loved this guy from the start, so that's a good pick.
If he can put on some more weight, just and when you get to the next level of football, no matter what level you're transitioning to, just because of the weight program and the diet program, whatever it might be, you generally gain, depending on your position, somewhere around 15 to 20 pounds, especially if you're a D lineman or a 3-4 outside linebacker. So who he reminds me of a lot is a skinnier, or a little, not necessarily skinnier, but a little smaller Brandon Graham, who played at Michigan and now plays for the Philadelphia Eagles, who is a little undersized. I mean, he's 6'1", 6'2", but is an explosive pass rusher, lives in people's backfields, and has turned himself into a really solid pro after some injuries early in his career. So if Vic Beasley can successfully put on a little more muscle and add a little strength without losing much of his speed or any of his speed, hopefully, I think he can go on to be a really successful pro as a tweener. Continue.
Sorry, no, I was gonna go on with my negative. For my down,
disappointed us.
For my down guy this year, I busted, hands up. I got caught in the hype. I got caught in the hype of last year's game against Alabama. I'm sorry. Trevor Knight's my guy. I was expecting a lot from him. I just loved the energy and the way I saw him play in that game last year and against Alabama in that dominant win. And I was sold. I was like, all right, this guy, put him on the Heisman watch, ready to go. Watch this guy fly. And you know what? He just hasn't really performed. He's got 9 touchdowns, 6 picks. Yardage-wise, he's not doing that bad. I think he's got like 1,800 or something. But he just, I haven't seen that kind of that flair and that dominance that I saw in him in that Sugar Bowl last year. So I've got him on my disappointment list right now, along as your disappointment. We had the same one of the same disappointments. So, but yeah, Trevor Knight's my guy.
Yeah, and Trevor Knight, and like I said earlier, obviously I'm a Bama fan, so I'm a little bitter towards Trevor Knight for really, shell-shocking us last year, and that's fine. He played outstanding in that Sugar Bowl, and we're not going to get into my feelings about the game, and that's fine. But you're right. He played outstanding in that Sugar Bowl, put up over 300 yards, and still a pretty good Bama defense, and really even started this season pretty hot. Overall, though, he doesn't have a huge arm. He has decent mobility, not great speed. And I didn't, outside of that game, I didn't see a ton from Trevor Knight. So I wasn't buying into the hype. And this was obviously a show-me season. Hasn't shown me much. So I agree with your pick on Trevor Knight. But similarly, a guy who I know that we both really liked coming into this year is Brett Hundley. And
I'm so frustrated by this.
I know. Isn't it frustrating? Because Brett Hundley, this is his 3rd year as a starter. He had a great redshirt freshman campaign. Last year he played very well too, even though UCLA faltered down the stretch. And this was really his year to, just break out. 1,800 yards, 13 touchdowns, 4 picks, 300 yards on the ground with 4 touchdowns. Don't look like bad numbers, but you expected a ton from him and this UCLA offense. Hasn't been there. Jerry Neuheisel was really better than him in that win over Texas that he got hurt. And there was more hype around him because of the video of his father watching him on TV than there really has been about Brett Hundley this year. UCLA's kind of fallen flat on their face. They got blown out by Oregon. Just outside of that blowout win against Arizona State, they haven't done much. And Brett Hundley hasn't done much. So I still like what Brett Hundley can do physically, but it would really be a shame if he ended up being a Logan Thomas of this draft or even next year's draft if he comes back for his senior year. all the physical talent in the world, had a hot start to his career, never improved, never really took that next step. And, maybe he can, and maybe he can turn the season around, but midway through, I'm not impressed with Brett Hundley, and it's a shame because he's a guy I like, and I know he was your Heisman pick coming into the year.
He was my Heisman pick, man. I saw really good things from smart, qualified guy, just really well composed, the way he runs that offense. And, I was just so bummed to see him decline. Jerry Neuheisel, if you ever see this video, it's been a while since I've seen you, but congratulations on that game. That was unbelievable. So cool to watch. And you really did. You looked like he outplayed. Brett in that game. So that was too bad. I hate to see a player like that. And Logan Thomas was the same thing for me. I was high on him too. Even though I went to Virginia Tech, and my dad's gonna kill me for saying that. I was high on him too, and he had one of those seasons where he just couldn't recover. But I really liked him, and I'm sad to see him decline. But I hope he stays and maybe tries to figure it out. But then again, you might not want to take the risk. So, too bad. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and now let's move on to a final part of this segment. Let's talk about the guy who's really broken out and kind of, shattered our ideas of him. So who's a guy who has shocked you this season in a way that you didn't expect him to, be playing this well, or you really didn't even know who he was coming into the year?
Ameer Abdullah. Good Lord. This guy's got, he's got 3 200-yard games, not just 2. He's got 3, and what just an unbelievable talent. Not that big of a guy, not that big, but really, really strong. The way he's built is just he's just a workhorse. Man, he just gets every yard that he needs to get, just runs as hard as possible. Really good at getting the outside, breakaway speed. He's got just all of the combinations of an NFL running back, and just a guy that I am so excited to see get to the combine and get to the pros, because this guy I really think could be one of the best running backs in the draft. I honestly just love the way he's playing. And, he whooped up on not the greatest of teams. I know put 200 on Florida Atlantic, I think. But, 200 yards is still 200 yards, and he's done it 3 times this season. There's no doubt he should be in Heisman contention, and I like him a lot. He's my sleeper pick.
Yeah, Ameer Abdullah, who, it's a pretty easy comparison to make, I think, is Ray Rice. Just, a little, not that big. If he can put on
95.
Get himself up to, he's only about 195, 200 pounds right now. He can get himself up to, a 210, 215. He's just a bounce to the outside guy who can, run outside, run in the middle, run up the middle. He can catch the ball. Versatile little guy. Maybe not outstanding speed, but still, obviously, it hasn't mattered. He's effective and he's smart with the football. And, like you said,
he finds a way to get to the end zone, and I really love that about him. He just, any way he can, he'll get there.
That catch against McNeese State where, he broke 3 or 4 tackles to help Nebraska avoid an upset by McNeese State. The guy, like you said, nose for the end zone, shifty runner, can bounce. He's a little pinball is the best way to describe him.
That's a perfect way to describe him. He is a pinball. He's the pinball.
Bounced off guys, hard to tackle. Yeah, you're right. Ameer Abdullah has really shocked some people. But for me, it's Kevin White, the big wide receiver for West Virginia. I got to watch him week 1 when, West Virginia came into play against Alabama and Atlanta, and he made some just jaw-dropping catches against Alabama over Bradley Silv, who is no longer starting for my Crimson Tide. But he really played great. He came to play and kind of, showed the world, hey, here we are and we're coming to play. West Virginia now has themselves very firmly in the Big 12 title race, and a lot, not just thanks to Clint Trickett, but thanks to White, who then this weekend, you saw that touchdown catch he made against Baylor, and the big West Virginia upset against Baylor. Oh, my God. This guy, just his hands are so strong, and he's so strong at going up and getting the ball. He's had 100 yards in every game this season. He had 200 yards against Maryland, 173 against Oklahoma, 132 against Baylor, 132 against Kansas, and 143 against Alabama. What more do you want from the guy? He is the nation receiver. He's 6'3", he's 210 pounds. He's got deep speed. He can go up and get it like a power forward. There's a lot to love about Kevin White. I think he's firmly in my first round as far as receivers go. I think he's getting out.
Dude, you and I are already drooling over this guy before he even gets to the combine. I'm sure NFL scouts are going nuts. They want 6'3". Are you kidding me? And this guy's putting up 100+ every game? Bring it on.
I don't care what offense you're playing in. He is outstanding. And you know who he really reminds me of? Maybe a little faster version of Michael Crabtree. Just a big physical receiver with strong hands and playing, in this kind of spread offense. But all he does is go up and get the ball and makes plays. And I think that you cannot put a price or premium on playmakers like that. No matter, I don't care how fast their straight line speed is. Guys who can go up and get it and make plays are to be coveted, especially when it comes to the NFL.
He's a senior, right?
He is a senior, yes. And yeah, I mean, what a way to go out this year.
Seriously, making a dent.
Yeah, I think, and there's a lot of talk about obviously Amari Cooper is having a phenomenal year in Tuscaloosa. Jalen Strong's having a very good year for the Arizona State Sun Devils. Ty Montgomery, Nelson Aguilar also out there in the Pac-12. But I think Kevin White, who's leading the nation in receiving, now is almost getting kind of underrated just because he plays for West Virginia. And because West Virginia had a down year last year, people were down on them when they played Alabama and came to play, and that offense ran pretty effectively in Atlanta. I think people were shocked, like, oh, well, I thought West Virginia wasn't going to be very good. Well, Clint Trickett and Kevin White have helped make West Virginia a very legitimate team, and probably a team that should be ranked pretty soon here if they're not already.
I agree with you. I think we're right on it today, bro.
Absolutely. But that's all for this portion of our segment about our midseason college football review. But we have a great segment following this one. Jameis Winston, how you feel about him? But we're going to get to that in a few minutes. Thank you for watching the Roll Tide Draft Blog. And scene. All right, so Jameis.
What do you want to do? You want to go through points, or do you just want to get into a conversation about it?
Let's just get into a conversation about it. And it's obviously not just we know he's an idiot. That's not the argument. The argument is whether all of his off the field stuff is going to drop his draft stock by the time the draft time comes around. And would you take him? Like, is there a huge concern with him? On or off there? Are the off the field concerns greater than the on the field stats, stuff like that? So, all right, let's dive back in so you can start drinking. And yeah, me too, actually. All right. All right. Welcome into our final segment of our college football midseason review here on the Roll Tide Draft Blog. And Herbie, this has been, the guy, the topic of conversation. The new Johnny Football that you can't go a day without talking about him, and that's Jameis Winston, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, quarterback of the reigning national champion Florida State Seminoles, and probably just a guy who can't make a lot of great decisions off the field, and that's why we're talking about him. Maybe he's a little wrapped up in his own success, but Herbie, what's your initial thought about Jameis Winston? Just when the name or pops into your head, or you're watching TV and Jameis Winston's on TV, or they're talking about Jameis Winston on TV, as they always have to.
Oh, dude, so many different thoughts, honestly. I mean, you say Jameis Winston, and honestly, you say Jameis Winston, you think Florida State, you think quarterback, you think crab legs, you think national championship, you think Heisman, you think idiot, you think dumbass, you think fool, you think every single word possible, all in 1 second, and and then you sit there and you think you're sitting there in your Oakland with the first round pick, with the first pick in the draft, and you're like, what do I do here? Is Derek Carr my guy? Is Schaub washed up? Do I need to take Jameis Winston here? Am I in that big of a need to take Jameis Winston here? Is he a guy that I can mold and turn into, a pro-caliber quarterback? Which I believe he is. I think we both agree on that. I think there's no doubt that this guy can play pro football. But
his physical talent is undeniable.
Yeah, there's no denying. I mean, that run in that first game of the season was unbelievable. I mean, I was just like, okay, there's your Heisman winner. I thought he was going to win it again. I don't think he's going to win it this year, but it becomes tougher a second year around. And it's such an interesting conversation, and it's an interesting thought because if I'm Oakland right now, I'm in. I'm taking him because I've got to take that risk right now. I've got to make a splash in Oakland.
Have the number one pick or as the top quarterback?
I take Jameis. Right now, I'd take Jameis. It's a bold statement. I've got to take that risk. I've got to take the risk that he's, God, now I'm almost second guessing myself. But I mean, literally, if I'm sitting there, it's because I just think about all this off the field stuff. And I think about crab legs, and I think about the sexual assault, which is definitely an issue. That we need to get to the bottom of
the NFL period right now.
It's a big problem. So I mean, there's no denying that he's talented and that he's ready. That he's definitely ready to play in the NFL tomorrow, and especially he could definitely start in Oakland right now, as far as what I'm seeing. And I just
you mentioned the Oakland Raiders just as a team that probably will end up with the number 1 pick finally, and they're going to try and make up for the Jamarcus Russell debacle. Is probably the right word, since the last time they had the number 1 pick. But if I'm the Oakland Raiders, I don't take Jameis Winston. The reason I don't take him is just because of all that off the field stuff. The Raider Nation as a whole has enough of its own problems. With just the management, the fan base gets a bad rap, because there've been some acts of violence by Raiders fans against other NFL fans. I don't need that when I've been in I've made so many bad first round draft picks. They've had a bunch of players who haven't panned out. They've had a bunch of signings that haven't panned out. They've had very talented players who finally have panned out and then left immediately. As good as Jameis Winston is and as good as his football intangibles are, the key word is football intangibles, I don't take him. If I'm going quarterback, I'm going Mariota. Honestly, if I'm Oakland, I have the number 1 pick. I don't go near a quarterback for the moment. As good as and Marcus Mariota are, I've got Derek Carr. He's finally starting to show something, which is nice, but he needs some skill position players and some protection. So I'm going as far away from the quarterback position for the moment as I can if I'm Oakland, and I'm going to try and ride with Derek Carr for at least a little while. Got to give the kid a shot.
So let's
play as well as he can in his situation right now.
Let's say the Bills are I don't know who needs. Yeah, let's just put the Bills in that situation.
If I'm Tampa Bay and I have the number 1 pick in this NFL draft, whether I have Lovie Smith as my coach next year or not, that is the team that I see Jameis Winston fitting into. Despite their record and how they've played, Tampa Bay is a pretty damn good NFL football team. It's just sitting there. It needs to be coached better, and I'm kind of shocked Lovie Smith hasn't done more as a team.
I really thought that was the turnaround team this year.
Yeah, so it was an easy pick because of all the very good NFL talent they have, all the high-round draft picks they have. I thought this was finally the year they could turn around. We can both agree that starting Josh McCown was a mistake, and they should at least stick with Mike Glennon for the rest of the year and kind of just see what Mike Glennon can do for them. But Jameis Winston is a guy I could see fitting into that franchise, and a team that I think offensively lacks a leader. Defensively, you have Gerald McCoy. You've got Mark Barron. You've got a couple good guys there on defense who can really be a leader, and I think that defense can kind of start to turn itself around here finally. McCoy today had some comments about they're playing soft and need to play tougher. I think that they can do that. But offensively, they lack leadership. Vincent Jackson's a very good receiver. He doesn't strike me as a team leader. Josh McCown and Mike Glennon neither of them have been leaders before. You thought if you went with Mike Glennon, I thought he could be a very good leader for this team, but you basically took all of his a lot of his confidence away when you started Josh McCown, who was a career backup and was a terrible decision in the first place. So your career backup quarterback is not your leader. No. Your second-year quarterback is not your leader at the moment. You might take Jameis Winston if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because on the field he is a great leader. You see that team, just like with Johnny Manziel, despite all the off-the-field stuff. And honestly, if you really think about it, all the stuff that Johnny Manziel did off the field is nowhere near as bad as what Jameis Winston has done off the field with the sexual assault charge, with the robbery stuff, and just with the inappropriate language in the middle of the student union. Johnny just went to parties, hung out with athletes, and went to sporting events, and maybe made some brash comments on Twitter and things like that, but nothing really too terrible. But at the same time, you saw that Texas A&M team always rally around him, and they love Johnny. This Florida State team loves Jameis and rallies around Jameis and his ability to be a leader. So I think Tampa Bay would be a good fit. But the question is, Herbie, if you're a GM, just anywhere in the top 10 drafts, or if you're evaluating him around combine time, what is your perception of Jameis Winston as far as, is he worth the first-round pick? Is he not worth the first-round pick? The talent is there, but can he mature?
And I say this because I don't know how much I trusted Kevin Sumlin to mature Johnny Manziel. I think he likes to get out and party too. So that's why I thought the NFL is better for Johnny. I don't know how Jimbo Fisher isn't maturing this guy. I feel like Jimbo Fisher, if there's a man to do it, it should be him.
He's a little looser than Saban, but he is a Saban disciple. You expect he'd be able to handle this.
He'd have him in control right now, and he still just doesn't seem to have the reins on it. So, I don't know if that's him disobeying, or I don't know what that is, but they need to, and I don't see, and why I'm struggling with this is because then if Jimbo can't do it, can Lovie Smith do it? I don't know. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know why they cannot just keep containing this guy. Like, dude, you have just won us a national championship. You just won the Heisman. You are going in the first round. Give it a rest. Go be like Johnny. Go to parties. Don't scream things in the middle of the student union. Don't take crab legs. We've got 100 billion donors that'll buy crab legs for you. Don't steal them. And be nice to women. Like, keep it on wraps. And you have literally the entire world. You have the ability. You have the leadership. You have the love of your team. Keep it together just for the rest of the season, and you will have the entire world laid out in front of you. You will get into a great organization. You will have a great mentor and a GM, a great mentor and a great coach, and chances are you could change the definition of an NFL quarterback. So get it together.
My real question with me, and obviously this past Saturday when your Florida State, you beat Notre Dame. Obviously, the whole place, Joe Campbell Stadium is going nuts, and as they should be, especially after that final series of plays. But do you think it was a problem that Jimbo Fisher pulled Jameis aside and said, keep it humble, keep the press conference humble, stay, all that, kind of the monologue he put in his ear? Do you see that as a problem, or do you see that as a coach being smart with a young player who's had some of this trouble? I don't know if I necessarily see it as an issue, but do you see it as an issue, Herbie?
It's a big game. That's a big win. He's a huge personality. He gets hyped up, and sometimes these young guys, they get hyped up and they say things and they're not thinking after games. Like, it's like a Richard Sherman thing. When Richard Sherman wins a football game, he makes a huge play in the last play. He doesn't think about what he's saying. He's just talking. He does not give a F. He is just talking about what he wants to talk about. So, I think that's a coaching move. I think you grab Jameis, go like, listen, good win, way to go, shut up, get in the press conference, keep it low, and let's get out of here. I think it's a coaching move.
See, I agree with you. I've talked about this a little bit, and people were, talking about how, well, this is just more proof that Jameis Winston, isn't that intelligent, fall farther down draft boards, blah, blah. But no, one of the reasons he's such a good leader and people like him so much at Florida State, or at least the team loves him so much, is because of that fiery personality, that passion where he will just say whatever it is. He gets wrapped up in the moment. But when you're trying to basically quell a media firestorm like Jameis Winston has created, you don't just need him saying whatever fired up Jameis is saying to the team. You don't need that being heard by the media. You
Right.
just need Jameis to come out, say, great win, congrats to Notre Dame. They played very well. But Florida State, this is Florida State football. We just played a little bit better, and we managed to get out of here with a win. It was a great win for our team, blah, blah, blah. That's what you want to hear. And that's one of the reasons that I'm so shocked that Jimbo Fisher has kind of let this, at being a Sabanite, that he has kind of let this get so far out of control when, Saban is nationally known for keeping his players as boring as physically possible when it comes to the media. So, obviously, Jimbo Fisher, while he's a Saban guy, is cut from a different cloth. He's a little bit more more friendly-seeming person and a little bit more open than Nick is. But it's just shocked me that he's let this get this far out of control with some of this stuff. But let's get back kind of to Jameis as an NFL prospect. We've mentioned that we believe that he's going to be in the NFL. I think it goes without saying that no matter where he gets picked, he will be a first-round pick because of his physical talent. But come Combine time, when I think you and I both expect Jameis to tear it up at the Combine and at his pro day, I'm sure too, do you think that performance at the pro day and at the combine, should it be spectacular, kind of brushes all this stuff back under the rug and puts him back in the top 10?
I think that, his conversations in media day, his combine, his pro day, I think that all has a huge effect on his stock. I think, he just got a huge win against Notre Dame. He has an opportunity right now to just finish out the season. You just came off a massive win against Notre Dame that really just solidified you as the team that you are. Chances are you're going to win out. Now, finish the season, be quiet, kill the combine. Come in and kill the combine. Be well-worded, well-composed for these media day interviews, and I think there's no doubt he goes in the top 10 in my mind, but I do think it matters, because if he comes in and he's not focused and he takes everything for granted, then I think all the teams are like, why would we take you?
I think that's a very fair point. It's those interviews and some of those combine drills might, make or break his stock, and there's no doubt that he's a great athlete. Put on the tape. He's a great athlete. He's a smart player. He 15 of 16, 15 of 17 that second half against Notre Dame. The guy is not only a great athlete, he's a great quarterback. And he's a smart quarterback who, this past year, has lost a ton of talent to the NFL. He doesn't have a running game this year like he had last year. Florida State's probably overall not as good a team, but Jameis is still playing pretty phenomenal football. He's had a couple more turnover issues, but, that happens after a great season. People kind of start to figure out some of your reads, and you'll probably throw another interception or two rather than you did the year before when you were, kind of a fresh face to the world of college football.
Sure.
With all of this, it's just, I think you're right. If there's no more incidents off the field after this, some of this, and I don't really care about the autograph thing. That doesn't bother me. It's probably going to turn into nothing anyway. But if there are no more off-the-field incidents, no more slander against women, no more sexual assault charges, drunk in public, whatever it might be, and he just has a clean slate going into the combine and he kills it, top 5 pick. Top 5 pick, depending on basically who's in the top 10. There's no reason that a guy with his physical talent and his success on the field should not go in the top 5, top 10.
And I'm not going to put him in the same class as Jadeveon because he's not in the same class, but he's quarterback talent that you cannot pass on. If he's got his stuff together by come draft time, there's no reason any team should pass on this guy. And I know teams are saying they're dropping their draft board or whatever, and it affects him. Now I hope he gets it. Now that scouts are saying that, I hope he understands now. I hope he gets it. And he goes, all right, I got an opportunity here. Here's my chance. I got to pull back, and I got to, be a Florida State quarterback, be a leader, and then get ready for the pros.
One last thing before we wrap it up, since this has been a pretty lengthy conversation. You said you'd take him over Marcus Mariota as the number 1 pick. Why?
I like Jameis in big games. I like his leadership quality. I think Mariota's story is great, and God, that's such a tough pick because I do like I like Mariota a lot, and I think about that kind of cheesy speech that he made in the locker room that time, and which really seemed to calm his team down, and I think he's a couple different types of leader. He's an aggressive, firm, hard leader when he needs to be on the field, but when he's in the locker room, he's like, this is football. This is fun. Relax. Like, we can win this. We can put a smile on your face. Let's win. It's one thing if you can be a leader, publicly and show that type of stuff. But if you're a multi-leader and you can bring guys down and you can relax them and you can also be firm with them, that's a whole different element, especially in the locker room and on the field. So, his leadership ability really separates him. On the field leadership ability separates him to me from Mariota.
Well, you've made a rare move, and you just swayed me with that point. Is that the leadership is very different. I was fully prepared.
Wait, what?
That's a very good point. That Marcus Mariota is a much more quiet personality, much more unassuming. And then not only that, when I really come down and think about it, yes, Marcus Mariota kind of puts himself in the injury realm more just because of the offense he runs at Oregon. But he's also 210 to 215 pounds versus Jameis, who's closer to 240, 230. And as much as I like Marcus Mariota and Marcus Mariota, what I love about him and what we've been talking about, I remember the first time Marcus Mariota started, and you and I both agreed this guy was going to be a stud for years to come, probably come NFL time too. He is unable to turn over the football. He does not know how to throw a pick, how to lose the ball, when he's running. It's like impossible for him. And that's kind of the only difference in the two, I'd really say, is that, in reality, it's probably a toss-up, but right now that you just kind of brought that up, the two-way leader kind of thing, I might take Jameis number one now or over Mariota. But at the same time, I don't think you can go wrong with Marcus Mariota. Yeah. But as we've mentioned, football teams especially, doesn't matter what level, rally around the loudmouth leader more than they do especially at the quarterback position, more so than the unassuming guy who still, has all the elite qualities.
When we talk about this, between Jameis or Mariota, who cares? I think they're both going to be unbelievable at the next level. I think we're both right. And it's tough. If I could take two quarterbacks with one pick, I would do it.
I think that's a fair point as well. But that's all for our college football midseason review here on the Roll Tide Draft Blog. Keep looking out for a new top prospect list that we'll be putting up very shortly here. And keep watching the Roll Tide Draft Blog as we put up more videos and articles, guys.
Ravens-Bengals this weekend, Shake. Good luck to you.
Yeah, good luck to you as well. Well, hold on. Final thought. Who you got winning in the jungle in Cincinnati?
Oh, it's so tough to win in the jungle, dude, but I got the Birds all day. The way you just did not perform against the Colts.
You want to know why we're going to beat you guys this week and the Bengals are going to get back on track? Taylor Mays is not going to be a starting strong side linebacker this coming weekend, and I rest my point there.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching.